relevant. All right. Things that I'm going to touch on is really I look at from employees, there's like four stages to it. And so I'm going to walk you through each one of those four stages, and then we'll talk about like staffing structure as far as like, do you have one coach, two coach, 18 coaches? What does that look like? So the four phases of employees, in my opinion, the first phase is all about recruiting. All right, you got to get people on your team. And with recruiting, I think the key is you have to think like a marketer. And what I mean by that is you have to have multiple poles in the water, and you need to treat your ads, or you need to treat your job placements just like marketing ads for your gym. Like, what's the hook? What's the thing that's going to stand out to this trainer? Because if you go on Indeed, there's a million other jobs out there available. And so it's like, well, what makes you different and unique? And so with the multiple poles in the water, and this is where I think most people go wrong, they put all their eggs in one basket. We've had a ton of success hiring from Indeed. However, I would not, that could change tomorrow. And I don't ever want my business to rely on one third party platform. Just like I don't want it to rely on Facebook ads. So we will use Indeed ads. We will use the Indeed recruiting tool where you can reach out to people yourself. I've hired a recruiter. I've hired actually two or three different recruiters over time. We have an employee referral program. I'll pay any of my employees 2,500 bucks if they recruit someone that sticks with me for 6 months. Not going to help you in the beginning when you don't have employees, but over time, that's something that could pay off. Facebook pages, go to like local community Facebook pages and ask, hey, who's the best personal trainer in San Diego? Well, you're going to get a list of 50 names. Just reach out to them and be like, hey, how's it going? I can tell you right now from being in the industry 20 plus years, most trainers are struggling. So if you're like, hey, I've got an opportunity that may interest you, like, would you like to grab coffee? It's great. Like, why not? It's going to cost you a cup of coffee and an hour of your time. Well worth it. I do that even regularly. Ask your clients for referrals. They might know someone. Go to the local universities. Ask. I'll reach out to the exercise science professors at the different universities. I'll email them one by one. I'll post on the university job board. I'll go to the university job fairs. I will offer an internship program, which we're getting a better system in place for that. It takes time, but it can pay off. You can go to certification websites and programs. Let's just say like Certified Functional Strength Coach is a company in the fitness industry that a lot of trainers will know about. I've posted jobs through them. Precision Nutrition. There's all kinds of third-party websites, but the important thing is don't rely on one thing only. All right. And then once you have your job posting, again, you got to think like a marketer. You need to put something that's going to be relevant to your culture and your community. If you're just like the boilerplate template generic messaging, that's not going to stand out to anyone. I'm very sarcastic. That will never change. One thing, and that shows in our culture every day. Um, One thing that I do in our job placement is I have 10 reasons not to apply. And it's 10 reasons not to apply. One is like if you walk around with a gallon jug of water every day. Two, if you if you have names for your arms, for your biceps and triceps, just kind of making fun of your meathead stereotype, because that's what a lot of trainers are. Number 11, a bonus is like if you hate puppies. But again, the point is, if you can't see the sarcasm in that, like we're not going to work well together. So I want that. And what's interesting is one of my interview questions is always like, why did you apply here? That is the number one answer. Your 10 reasons not to apply just said a lot about your personality and your culture. And so that's what I would say from a recruiting standpoint. Those are the things that I think are really helpful. In your ad, also make sure to include everything you can from like compensation. Do you offer benefits? I can tell you most fitness companies don't offer benefits. So if you do offer benefits, make sure you list them in there. If you have plans to open up multiple locations, bring that up. Hey, we're a growing company. There's opportunities for advancement. In most environments, personal training is somewhat of a dead end position. There's really no room to grow. So if you believe that you can provide that, well, by all means, bring it up. You need every advantage that you can to get more eyeballs on your job posting. Once you do that, then you get to phase two, which is the interviewing. Different types of interviews you could do: phone, Zoom, in person, like a practical interview, or having them shadow, which if you're not open yet, that's a little bit, that can be a little complicated, but I would suggest having at least three interviews. Typically, I'll do a 5 to 7 minute phone call, which I'll say like, "Hey, do you got 5 to 7 minutes free to chat?" When today or tomorrow. If someone wants me, if you don't have 5 minutes to talk to me in the next 24 hours, no, it ain't gonna work. Like, give me a break. It's 5 minutes. If you can't find any time available till next week, it's not this. It's not gonna work out. So I'll just text everyone that comes in that I think I want to interview, and just shoot them a text. Hey, do you got 5 to 7 minutes? This is John with Alloy Personal Training. Love to chat about our opportunities to see if it makes sense for us to discuss further. And that's it. And I am paying attention to how quickly does someone get back to me. Everyone lives on their phone these days. If you're not replying for 2 days, which does happen, I'm actually surprised how much. I'm not going to give you the time of day. By then, I've moved on. So I'll do a brief phone interview, and then typically an in-person interview. And then our third interview is more shadowing. So once your studio's open, I tell someone, hey, I'll pay you $100. Come hang out at the gym for 3 hours. That's it. Like, just come hang out. I want you to see what it's like to work here, because I want you to make sure that it'd be a good fit for you. Right? I'm selling it as if like it's a good fit for you, but at the same time, this is the real interview, because I'm watching how you're interacting with our coaches and our clients. I don't care how you act towards me. I care how you're going to interact with the clients. And so that's actually, to me, the most powerful. If someone's socially awkward or stands in a corner, you're going to pick up on that pretty quickly, especially if you're not open. When you open up, you've got to control the energy in the room. So you can't, if someone's like the type that's going to have their hands, crossed, standing in a corner, like, it won't work. There's times where you're the only employee in the building. You've got to bring the energy. That doesn't mean you have to be a cheerleader. You can be a coach, but you can't be socially awkward. You can't be quiet. So that's our interviewing phase. After that, we move on to our onboarding piece. For us, that's a lot of hands-on, a lot of reps. I understand if you're getting ready to open your first studio, it can be tricky, but I would just say the more practice you can get someone doing the basics, just the mundane stuff over and over and over again. It's extremely painful how many times I'll go over things, and you know what? Every time they still don't get it right. So, I mean, you cannot repeat yourself enough with the basics. Just how do you coach an exercise? What's this? Just go through the Alloy programming. Hey, how would you coach this? What do you think people are going to do wrong? How would you make it easier? How would you make it harder? And then move on. And it's literally, we'll spend hours and hours and hours doing that. Rehearsing over like the 7 core tenets. There's a lot of different resources in guides that you'll have access to if you don't already, that tell that there's a lot of amazing information in there. So I would just pick from that. So that's our onboarding. And I would make sure with your onboarding, you want to set a meeting cadence up in the beginning. Don't just like say like, all right, well, we'll check in every week. I want it to be, no, we're going to meet every Monday at noon or whatever the time is. You want a consistent meeting cadence. If you don't have that, you're going to get busy and it won't happen. And that's a recipe for disaster. And then ongoing, what you can do from like an ongoing standpoint, once people are onboarded, then we have a weekly team meeting. I meet with my fitness directors every single week, one-on-one. I also have a leadership meeting because I have 4 locations, and so I meet with all 4 directors together, and then I meet with all 4 directors separate. And then I have my leadership meeting. I meet with my fitness directors one-on-one, and then I have a team meeting as well. In the beginning, I think, and I also have a head coach meeting once a month. Those are my regular, like more consistent meetings. Once a quarter, we have a staff workshop. We bring all 4 of our locations together. It's a Friday afternoon from 1 to 4 p.m. every single time. And we get together and the topic changes each time. But we're having once you get to multiple locations, I think it's great to get all the teams together at least once a quarter. And we make it fun. It's definitely educational, but we make it fun and keep it light but everyone's learning. And so that is really kind of our continuing education. That's really our continuing education on an ongoing basis. So and then we're also, last thing, we're doing quarterly reviews. I do quarterly reviews with the coaches. I used to do quarterly reviews with everyone one-on-one. Now that I've got 14 employees, I just can't. It's too much. So I now do quarterlies in small groups based on their role. So I meet with the head coaches, I meet with the coaches, I meet with the fitness directors. So I essentially have 3 quarterly one-on-one meeting or 3 quarterly small group meetings where we map out the next 90 days. If you haven't read the book Traction, you need to read it. Some people think it's a snoozer, but it completely changed my business 7-8 years ago. If you haven't read it, read it. And I would say like 90% of it applies. There's some things that's built for a little bit slightly bigger organizations. So you got to massage a few things in there and make it your own. But for the most part, like stick to the cadence, 90-day windows, 90-day goals, and weekly meetings. I mean, it's like I said, it's about 95% applies to us. Some of the facilities that I see that are struggling, first thing I'll ask like about their meetings, and truthfully, they're not doing them or they're not doing them consistently. Yeah. And that's a no-go. If you're not, like, our meetings are not optional. You'd better like be in the hospital or dying or something bad better be happening if you're not at our meeting. Like I've worked in environments in the past many years ago where they were kind of optional, and like that's a no-go. And so I would just say you want to set that precedent in the beginning. These are not optional. Like because once you give people an inch, they'll take a mile. So there's zero wiggle room there. The meetings are mandatory. If you can't make our meetings, you can't work here. And that I tell people that in the first interview, like, hey, we meet every Monday at noon. Can you do that? Because if not, then there's no reason for us to talk further, because that's a deal breaker. So that's our meeting cadence. Again, we're following pretty close to a level 10 meeting structure. Pretty simple. Yeah, that's our cadence there. As far as staffing structure, I can tell you I've done it a couple different ways. Some work better than others, but essentially you've got to look at it as like you've got about, give or take, 55 sessions a week. Give or take. Some people, I think when we opened with 50. We started with 50 and then we added, now we're at like 55. We are not open Friday nights. We're not open Sundays. The reason that was our choice, the reason we did that is because when do people ask off the most? Weekends. Well, now technically I could have one coach work Friday and Saturday if my other 2 employees were out. Whereas if you're open Friday evening, that's a big ask to say, I need you to work Friday morning, Friday evening, and Saturday morning. That's a brutal shift.
So, hey, John, and I'm sorry for starting late. Like 2 minutes before I was supposed to call you, I got an SPS call. At least I booked it though. But in any case, I wanted to just ask, the PM, are you saying you don't do like the 4 to 7 at all?
Give me 1 minute, and I recorded the beginning, so you'll be able to watch it. So we do, actually, every studio is different. It's similar, but different. So we do 6 to noon, Monday through Friday, Monday through Thursday, 3 to 7.
3 to 7.
So Saturdays, some always go 4 to 8, at least in St. Louis. Like, it's just not an evening crowd. Like, it's just not, and again, I've had a gym for almost 14 years. We've never were able to fill up that 7 p.m. slot. At our other facility. And so it's just not a thing here. Then Saturdays, typically 7 to 11. Now, once you fill up, the first thing we added in was a noon on Saturdays. So again, initially 6 to noon, 3 to 7, and then 7 to 11. We added in an 11 o'clock or, one extra hour on Saturdays. And then we started adding in 5 a.m. At one of our locations, we now offer 5 a.m. Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So that's our schedule. As far as the training goes, and this is where you gotta, you got a couple options here. So typically what we currently do is we have a director and 2 full-time coaches. All right. We only recently transitioned to that. And essentially, the director doesn't do at the moment any training whatsoever. Our head coach is basically split the session, or not our head coaches, our head coach and our other coach, both full-time, essentially split the sessions 50-50. Now, that drives payroll cost up, but we're going back. We're about to hit the gas pedal again and go into another growth phase. And so as far as opening other studios, so I want to get these completely full before I want them to be busting at the seams going into this next phase. And it also helps me better prepare my staff, help them get more reps in to promote other people internally on the team. And so that's one of the reasons why we've staffed up as much as we have. Now that does hurt your margins. Like obviously you got to pay more hours, but to me, short term, it's definitely well worth it. I would look at, you got to start with your director. I can tell you right now, your director is going to be the bottleneck to growth. If you have an amazing director, you're going to sit back and think you're a genius. If you have a bad director, it's going to be a tough road. And that's just, I've had to let a director go. It sucks, and it made for a very miserable time, but it's part of being a business owner. It does happen. So your director, I would say, needs to train between 0 and 15 hours a week. All right. Anything more than 15, there's minimal chance they're able to dedicate enough time to sales activities, unless you have someone that is just so hyper focused and organized, or you have someone that their head coach is really strong and can handle more of those retention activities so that when they're not training, they're 100% on sales. But the director, I would say, is 0 to 15 hours of training. Keep in mind, they're also going to be filling in anytime another employee's gone, sick, out of town, quits, fired, whatever. So they're going to pick up hours just kind of organically. But I would say, they're starting with that 0 to 15 hours. When I look at a director, there's 4 jobs that they're responsible for. One is training, nurturing the clients, retaining the clients. 2, sales. This is the one piece that I think in hindsight, being, I don't know, 3 years into this now, I don't think in the beginning we placed enough emphasis on sales. And I can speak for Alloy as a whole. Corporate did not understand the sales intensity required. And so I think we kind of downplayed that, or I think they kind of downplayed that as well, to where it was like, you were hiring a trainer and hoping they could sell. Now it's almost like the opposite. I would rather hire a salesperson and teach them how to train. I can tell you it's way easier to teach someone how to be a trainer than it is a salesperson.
Mm-hmm.
You have someone that's a great trainer that just can't get over that mental block of asking people for money, they'll probably never get over it. It's just, it is a tough, that's a really tough skill to teach. So beyond that, they're also then responsible for the operations and the staff. They assist with the staff development. Now, because that's my background, I do the bulk of our education for our team. However, the fitness directors, as we're growing, I'm now delegating more and more of those activities to them. So that's your director role. Your head coach role, typically they're going to do 24 to 30 training sessions a week. Anything more than 30, I think the quality is going to go down the tube quick. Anything less than 24, and I feel like you don't have a full-time employee. Like there's not other stuff for them to do. You need them to coach. Like that's how you make money, is coaching. And so to me, 24 to 30 is that sweet spot. Our head coaches are all pretty much like 26 to 28. And it very rarely wavers from that.
John, can I ask a question here?
Yep.
This is where I'm like not understanding. My understanding of a full-time employee, at least in the state of New Jersey, is 40 hours. So what are
So,
they,
all
so are
right,
they,
so I'll get to that. 20, so you've got your training hours, but you don't just show up and train 60 seconds after you walk in the door. I'll get to that in just a second. So you've got 24 to 30 out training sessions
gotcha. Okay, got
a
it.
week. All right. Training hours
Right,
is like hours they are training.
right.
Outside of that, your head coach is responsible for different like retention activities and
Mhm.
just holding clients more accountable. If you got a client that's going out of town, maybe they need to write some workouts for them to do while they're traveling. Just take care of the clients. It's pretty, do whatever they need. And then your other coach, again, you've got a couple options here. This is where everyone's got to do what's in their best interest based on what you've got staffing wise in your setup. You could hire one part-time coach, and let's just say your part-time coach is going to train 2 to 3 shifts per week. Your head coach trains 5 shifts per week, and then your director trains the other 2 to 3 shifts per week. That's an option. If
Right,
you're in growth mode and you don't want your director training, you could hire 2 part-time people and
right.
just
That's what I
split
got.
the hours up evenly. Or you could hire one full-time, like we've recently switched to. We just have 2 full-time coaches and a director, but the director doesn't train at all. Again, we recently switched to that, but that's, I believe, temporary. So traditionally, we've went with a fitness director training 2 shifts per week, head coach training 5 shifts per week, part-time employee training 3 shifts per week.
Hmm.
That's been our setup. A mistake we made for those of you with ambitions of opening multiple locations, our part-time employees were actually full-time employees split between 2 locations. The downside was, and part of this is luck. We had bad luck last year. We had, whether it was due to deaths in the family, pregnant. I had 4 employees last year have a baby. 12 years prior, I had 0. Like, I don't know how that happens. I'm worried about the water, but we've got like again, just talk about bad luck. We had an employee who he had his brother died and it was really bad, and so we lost him like 3 weeks. We had we had 2 other employees get married. We had like it was just and so the idea of having a full-time employee that's split between 2 locations sounds great, and in theory it makes sense. The trouble is then it's like you're constantly scrambling because one, they can't pick up extra shifts at both places because you've already got them working somewhere else. And that was a mistake that I made in hindsight was, and again, if everyone was there, when everyone's there, it's fine. But when you have 8, 9 employees, someone's always got something going on.
Yeah.
So it was like you're just constantly short, and so we found ourselves last year just constantly shorthanded because something was always happening with someone. Again, sometimes it was good stuff, but it was almost constant, and so that was a real challenge. Now, you other options you could do would be another staffing format. So again, you could go director, head coach, full-time coach if the director's not going to train. You could go director, have them train, head coach, and then part-time coach. You could do that. You could go director and then really just eliminate the head coaching position, and you could potentially have just 3 or 4 part-time coaches. There's things I will tell you, and I haven't done that, but the advantages of doing that are if someone's out of town, you're not as reliant on the rest of the team. Again, if I have a head coach that once a week vacation, I now have 5 shifts to cover and only 2 employees to do it between. That's kind of rough. Whereas if you have like 3 or 4 part-time people and one of them is out, that's easy to get covered. You're only out like you only have like 2 shifts to cover. If you lose an employee and they're all part-time, it's easier to fill that gap. So those are the advantages. The disadvantage, and again, I only know of one person that's doing this, and it hasn't happened yet. If you have a fitness director and part-time coaches, if you lose your fitness director That's going to be brutal because now you're left with all part-time employees, none of which are probably like all in on the business because they've got other things going on in their life. That's why they're part-time. And so again, I don't know anyone that's had to deal with that yet, but it is kind of a word of caution that if you did want to go that route where you have one full-time employee and everyone else is part-time, just remember if you lose that full-time employee, like you're in a world of hurt because there is like that your productivity is going to fall off a cliff and it's going to take a while to rebound. So just kind of doesn't mean it's right or wrong, but it's just something to be aware of. So that's an option as well. You could also have another format, would be to, instead of having you could almost have like a dedicated salesperson for multiple locations. If you're thinking like long term, you could have a dedicated salesperson for multiple locations, and then kind of almost like just elevate your head coach, and pull them off the training floor maybe a little bit more and let them handle more of the retention activities. If you come to find that you've just got one person that's just a killer with sales, then I'd say, well, give them as, the finding someone that can manage the sales is the most difficult role in the job, in the business that we have. That is your constraint. That is your problem that you have to solve. And so if you find that right person, get everything else off their plate that you can to let them just do that well. And like I said, let them fill your gym up because that is the biggest constraint, is finding someone that's good at sales. So if you find that, try to give them every opportunity to do that, because that's a hard skill to find elsewhere across the board. Last comment I'll make is on compensation. I prefer keeping it super simple. With directors, I do salary plus a rev share. I do a 5% revenue share. I keep it simple. I used to do profit sharing, and I would do salary plus 15% profit sharing. There's two problems with that. One, we paid out the profit sharing quarterly. In today's society, 90 days is like 10 years. Like the idea of waiting 90 days for your bonus check, like that doesn't work for people in today's workforce. Like it just like everyone, they need it now. They need it now. You can either fight it and be like, sorry, that's how we do it, or you can just accept it and deal with it. Me, that's not a battle that's not a battle I was willing to pick. Is like, why do I want to, all right, people aren't going to manage their personal finances, so I can either just accept it or continue to put it to where they're constantly like stressed out of their mind. The other reason I went away from the profit sharing is because employees in general don't understand profit. Like they don't like the idea, hey, we had like, all right, something I had, one of my random expenses. We had a water fountain bust. I don't know. It was like in this fall. All right, well, that's like $3,000. Like employees don't understand, like, hey, that's $3,000 less profit we're making this month. Like they don't understand that.
Right.
They don't understand, oh, expenses went up or something happened. Or actually another one I wrote a couple checks for our CAM reconciliation for the year prior. Those checks sometimes really suck. I had one that was really bad. And like, what am I going to say? Hey, sorry, I know we've been profitable, but now all of a sudden that profit went to zero for the quarter. Like that just, again, I don't think employees can, that's not a battle I'm going to pick. I like the rev share because it's easier for them to know how much money they're going to make. It's like, how much money am I going to make? Well, get a calculator, run a mind body report, see your total sales, and times 0.05. There you go. There's your bonus. Whereas, like I said, the profit sharing, they just didn't understand. So we do rev share paid out monthly. Our employees, last comment on the director compensation. Again, I understand with profit sharing, it protects you more, because if you're not making profit, you're not paying it out. However, I don't think the trade-off is worth it. And the reason is because it goes back to the biggest constraint in the business is the fitness director. That's the biggest bottleneck to growth. And if you're turning that position over, it's going to be a rough road. And so I would rather, if the business is maybe not where it should be, I'd rather eat that loss myself, pay them a bonus, keep them happy, and know that it will work out. I made this decision actually last year after I fired a fitness director, brought a new director in. We had a horrible pre-sale and we opened with 47 clients. And in my head, I was like, it's not fair to this new guy that like we're not going to make a profit for 6 months or however long. I'm like, well, that's not fair. Like, one, it's not fair to him. Two, I'm like, I'm concerned about him staying motivated for 6 months to get to that point. So that's when I decided to switch to a revenue share model. And I will say it was a very smart decision. There's more confusion around compensation. And fast forward a year and we went from 47 to like 100 and we're about to hit 130. And so we'll hit 130 this month. And so it was, again, cost me a little more on the front end, but I definitely think it was well worth it. As far as coach compensation, now keep in mind we're in St. Louis, so every market's going to be a little different. We pay 20 to 22 bucks an hour plus $2 per head. So you train our head coaches make 22 bucks an hour. Our coaches make 20 bucks an hour. You train a session with 5 people as the head coach, you get 22 bucks plus $10. $2 a head times 5 clients. So for that session, you made 32 bucks. All right. The reason I set it up that way is because I want to incentivize the coaches to fill their sessions. And so it's like, hey, you want to make more money? Cool. Fill your sessions up. Like don't come to me and tell me you want more money. Fill your sessions. Like that's the fastest way to make more money. So it's kind of like, hey, it puts you in the driver's seat. You're in control of your destiny. And so if you want to make more money, just fill your sessions up.
Hey, John, real quick, how are you tracking that though?
I created a spreadsheet. They have to track it.
Okay.
And
But
I'm like, hey, I'm not tracking this. And honestly, I don't even audit it. Now, if the numbers were like way off, yes, I can go and audit it, but I'm not, it would have to be really off for me to go audit it.
Okay.
Honestly, it's like, I think I'm hiring good people, honest people. So I'm not checking it at all. I'm like, I have a Google Calendar that's automatically set up that sends them a reminder twice a month, send in your sessions by the end of the day tomorrow.
And just
then they just email them to me.
And just out of curiosity, how come your head coach is a full-time but it's not salaried? Why'd you decide to go hourly?
I've done both. And the reason is because there's 2 things. Outside of coaching, with a lot of head coaches, it's tough to get anything else done. They just don't get a lot done. That's 1. 2, I've done that before and I don't, it's out of simplicity. If you want to make more money, work more hours. I've dealt with this, well, I'm burned out. I need a break, and on salary, I'm like, tough crap. I need you to work. This is the agreement. But on hourly, it gives me more so the main reason is it gives me more flexibility. Hey, you're feeling burned out. Okay, cool. Take a long weekend. I don't care because I'm not paying for it. Now within reason, but I would say our head coaches they've got they can work up to 40 hours a week. None of them do. Again, it's just dealing with, and I don't mean it to sound as negative as it might, but like dealing with today's workforce, 40 hours a week is more than a lot of people can handle, if I'm being honest. And so rather than fight it, I'm just like, all right, cool. I'll just pay you hourly. And if you want more time off, we had a head coach that is no longer with us, but he was great. And then he fell in love. And guess what? Now he wanted a lot more time off so he could spend time with his girlfriend. And it was a battle. It's like, no, you can't have 3-day weekends like 3 times a month. Like you have to work. And so after that, I was like, you know what? We're switching everyone. We're going hourly from here on out. And I haven't regretted it. Again, because it gives me more flexibility. Whereas if I have to come to you and say, hey, we need to renegotiate your salary, that's a really awkward conversation. And so instead, it's just, you want to work more, work more. You want to work less, work less.
So, John, with your full-time head coaches or trainers, then you're not paying benefits because they're
Right.
not. Oh, okay. Even though they're only working, I think you said 24 to 30 hours per week.
So here's how we schedule it. You're training 24 to 30 sessions a week, but we schedule someone 30 minutes before and 30 minutes before or after their training session. So if you're training 6 to noon, you're training 6 hours, right? You're scheduled for 7 hours. So if you're training 6 to noon, you're scheduled 5:30 to 12:30.
Gotcha.
So basically, and that's, and I would say, like, do you need a full 30 minutes before and after? Before, I would say yes, because the last thing on earth I want is an employee scrambling, running late, and them not prepared when clients are showing up. That's a problem. Afterwards, yeah, there's always stuff to clean. There's plenty of work to go around. There's no shortage of stuff. So when you're doing the math on, like, well, how many hours is this job? I would just, the simple math that's like probably 90% accurate is just like, how many sessions are they training, and then add in an hour a day. Because that, like I said, 30 minutes before, 30 minutes after. That's how I do the math, just to keep it simple. Now, of course, your afternoon shifts aren't as long. So on your afternoon shifts, a lot of times I might have someone come in an extra hour early, and so we start training at 3. We don't have anyone that comes in at 2:30. We have them come in at either 1 or 2. And that way there's at least 30 minutes, if not 90 minutes, that they can, clean, take care of like client check-in stuff, updating notes. Again, there's plenty, like writing birthday cards. There's so much like mindless stuff that needs to get done. And if we do that, so we'll do that Monday through Thursday. All right, so we're getting an extra, let's just say, maybe an hour a day of productivity of stuff that we can get done. But even at that, like 4 hours is not that much in a week.
Yeah. Okay. And your DTs, are they doing all the SPSs, or do you have the head coaches do some of those?
I would have them do it in when we're desperate. They've like one of my head coaches has never done an SPS. The other 3 probably do like one every like 6 months, not much at all. It's again the sale, like you'll find, especially once you get open and established, man, that potential sale walking through your door, like that is gold. You don't get 50 of those a month. You might get like 5 to 10. So you better take advantage of every one you like. That's where it's like on my directors, it's like, you need to make this work. Like this is your number one priority is sales. And again, like you only get, 5, 10, maybe 15 shots a month. Like you need to figure it out. So it's
You
there's so few opportunities. Like I said, as your director, you need to make this work.
and are any of the DTs doing any of your like organic marketing events out in the community, anything like
Oh yeah.
that?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Everyone is so our policy is 10 hours a week. Now in the pre-sale, obviously, totally different ballgame. But our directors, once you're established, you need to commit 10 hours a week to sales. All right. Now, let's just say, and I tell my directors this, if you have 10 SPSs this week, all right, cool. I don't care if you do anything else. But because like 10 SPSs is amazing. However, unfortunately, that's not going to happen very often. And so it's like, how are you, so typically for us, the goal would be like 5 SPSs a week, and then, so an hour a day, and then an hour a day doing marketing activities. Sales, go attend an event, do try to set up a cross promotion. There's a handful of things that we do, but yeah, that's the director's responsibility.
And do you consider them any like a GM where they're taking on some other activities of the business, or do you handle all those yourselves for all 4 studios?
So my responsibility is I run all of our team meetings. I run all of our meetings and education minus the weekly coach fitness director one-on-one. The fitness director meets with the coaches one-on-one, and that was the thing that I did up until recently, and it is just because I can't anymore. I just don't have the bandwidth. So I handle most of the staff development, most of our pretty much all of our like marketing strategy. Now the marketing, as far as executing the marketing, that's on the director. But as far as the marketing strategy goes, that's on me. And so I handle all of that. I handle all of the strategy and systems, recruiting and developing talent, all the financials, P&L, all the books. My wife and I handle that, and then we do the marketing and content creation. As far as we hold the marketing team, that the third party, we hold them accountable. My directors don't really interact with them, but all the local marketing, that's on the directors. Again, I help. I create the strategy, they execute the play.
Okay. And on your rev share, do you do that? It's just 5% rev share. It's not graduated based off of members or anything.
Nope. You can. I just went with a flat 5%. And the reason is because I think I love the simplicity. And I think like, all right, so if I start off lower and tier someone up, I'm like, all right, how much money in the big picture am I really saving? Like it's just not, I'd rather if I think it's gonna retain talent, I'd rather just spend a few extra $100 a month. In the big scheme of things, I don't feel like it matters that much. I know some people would say differently, but I'm also not I'm probably not the best one to take financial advice from in the sense that like the gyms do well, but like I'm not money motivated myself. So that's what yeah, we do really well, but like money's not a driver for me. I don't care. Like obviously I need it, but it doesn't motivate me at all.
Yeah.
So that's all I got. So you guys fire questions away, or we can, get on with pizza night.
I know, John, I feel bad as your pizza night. Thank you so much. I really appreciate taking a Friday evening to go through this. Really helpful. Thanks, man.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Yeah, John, I have one question.
Mhm.
So I'm trying, like I said, I'm about to post my job, my first time opening the gym, right? So I'm figuring out the schedules, what I'm going to tell, what they're going to do beforehand. So I guess my first question would be, in your pre-sales and pre-marketing, while you're still currently under construction, because the corporate's saying we need to hire a director and a coach like 40 days before we go into training. So, I mean, they'll be technically hired 30 days when I'm still under construction. How did you handle that? What did you do? Where did you meet them? What did they do during that time frame? How did you pay them?
Yep, I can't truthfully answer that. The pre-sale has changed a lot over the last 2 years. And so I did not have a head coach when we did our pre-sale at any of the locations. So we had what now in hindsight, I do believe it was a good change to have two employees. When you start one, what if one of them flakes out? Like then you got nobody. And again, I had that happen once where it just someone didn't work out. So I do think, and with one person, it really their time management has to be off the charts to execute everything consistently. Again, it does cost more money because you're paying more in payroll, but
Yeah.
I do think it's a good move because it's so hard to grow once you get open that if having someone having an extra set of hands, if that allows you to get an extra 10 clients in pre-sale, that is well worth it. Because to net 10 clients once you get open, I mean, shoot, that could take 4 months. Not always. I mean, I look at the numbers every month, and there's some people that will add 15 in one month. but there's a lot more that don't. So
Yeah.
it can happen, but it's not, the averages are, you're not going to net that many clients a month. So you want as much uh, intensity during that pre-sale as you can. So I do think it's a smart move adding a second person for pre-sale, even though yes, it definitely costs more money.
Jay, I'm just through week 3 weeks of pre-sale. I would say the reason I think you got to have a head coach during that time is we started pop-ups. You're going to lose people because I mean they sign up first couple weeks, they want to get training, and you have a 10-week pre-sale. I have a lot of people who are like, we're not willing to wait. So we started pop-ups after 2 weeks, and you need a head coach for that. So I think it's well worth the money, like John's saying, to make sure. I would highly recommend having at least a trainer. Um, if you're going to manage like the DOT stuff.
Yep. Last thing, as far as I forgot to mention this earlier, was staffing, because I've seen this come up in conversation with other alloy owners, and I think it's a mistake. Do not allow any employees to only work mornings or only work evenings. You want to, so our expectations is when I'm interviewing someone, hey, everyone works at least one morning and at least one evening. And the reason is because if you allow someone to work Monday through Friday morning, they're the only one that has a relationship with those clients. And if that trainer leaves, you're going to deal with a mass exodus. And it's not pretty. I've seen it happen, and it's not good. And so I'm not saying your schedule needs to be all over the place every other day, but if our morning head coaches all work 1 to 2, our head coaches typically work more in the mornings because that's when we're busier, but every one of them works 1 or 2 evenings a week. And so what that means is then all the clients have a relationship with at least 2 coaches.
Okay, and
That will protect you, but you have to set that expectation in the interview, because I've had people say like, well, they only want to work mornings. And I would say, well, that's tough. But if you don't set that expectation in the beginning, that's tough to undo. And so everyone has to work mornings. Everyone is going to have to work weekends. Now, with the weekends on Saturday, you might not work every Saturday. And in fact, like I wouldn't have anyone work every Saturday. However, it's a mistake I've seen a lot of gym owners make is like, well, I don't work Saturdays. And it's like, no, that's just not how our operation works. You have such a small team, you have to have the flexibility. I'm not saying I'm going to ask you to, if it's like, John, I got kids' activities on the weekends. I'd be like, Jay, I hear you, it's not going to happen all the time. But if Dustin's on vacation, yes, you are going to work Saturday. Again, it's not all the time, but everyone has to be available because there's going to be at least a few times throughout the year where it happens. And again, you never want to get you backed into a corner to where, someone can say like, well, you told me I'd never work a Saturday. And so that's just, like I said, you don't want to back yourself into a corner. So I would just set the expectation, I would try to over communicate expectations in the beginning. And almost as weird as this sounds, when I'm interviewing people, I want to set like a worst case scenario. I want to tell you a worst case scenario. So that way, when we start working together, you're like, oh, this isn't so bad. But I tell people in the interview, I'm like, I am a very difficult person to work for. And I'm like, I have high expectations. When you do something wrong, I'm going to tell you. And, and it's because I care about helping you develop and succeed. But some people don't do well with feedback. But, and I'm like, hey, if that's you, like, then you probably shouldn't work here. But I want to, like I said, I almost in my interviewing, I want to paint a picture of like the worst case. And I'll tell people like, hey, you know what? There's going to be a couple times a year where someone's going to have a death in the family. And guess what? I'm going to need you to work a split shift a couple times. I'm going to need you to work Saturday. I'm going to need you to do this. Like it's going to suck and it's going to be short term, but it's going to happen. And so, like I said, I'll paint like a worst case scenario. Because again, unfortunately, those things do happen. Not often, but it's going to happen sooner or later.
okay, great. And then John, one other thing, the director hours, what do those look like?
Get the job done, man.
Okay.
That's and I mean that's how I that's the relationship with the directors. It's your, I'm not holding you accountable to a schedule. I'm holding you accountable to hitting our KPIs. You know what? If you're a magician and you can get it done in 30 hours a week, all right, cool, man. Good for you. Like I'm not now, granted, I don't think that's possible. But it's just, as long as you're getting the job done and we're hitting our goals, hey, that's up to you. Now, I will tell you best practices for a schedule are you need to be available. You need to see throughout the week, you need to be there early, at least 1 or 2 days a week, and you need to be there late 1 to 2 days a week. Like that. And that's kind of the expectation that I set is that because you're the director, you're the star of the show. You need to have a relationship with every one of the clients. And you can't do that if you never see them in person. And so, again, I'm not saying you need to work 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. every night, but you need to be there at 6 a.m. at least one day a week. You need to be there at 7 p.m. at least one day a week. And that's kind of how I set it up. Is like you've got to, it's like you need to be there at open and at close at least one day a week.
And John, just one follow-up on that. What's your, you kind of gave guidance on your head trainer's compensation. What's the starting salary for your DT?
We start at 50. And it goes 50. And then once they hit a certain numbers, 50, 55, 60. And then
okay, so you don't graduate their retention, their rev share, but you do graduate their salary based off of KPIs.
Yeah, yep. So once you're getting closer to full, then it bumps up 5K and then another 5K. So again, I believe so. If a gym's doing $500,000 in revenue, which in St. Louis is really, again, we're in St. Louis, it's really good. This wouldn't help you out in San Diego, but the director's going to make like 87K. That's pretty good. $87,000 to run a gym in St. Louis, like that's tough with full benefits. We pay for 100% of health insurance. We do $1,000 a year continuing education. We start off at 12 days a year PTO. We're getting ready to bump that up. Yeah, those are the big. We're getting ready to launch a 401k. We're like that's pretty tough to beat in fitness. And again, and I say that being in fitness 22, 23 years now, like most companies don't offer benefits.
Thanks so much, John.
Thanks, John.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, John.
Anything else?
A lot of good information here.
All
Yeah,
right.
really appreciate it. Thanks, bud.
All right.
Enjoy your pizza.